guys. We're going to go popcorn style. Please respect the one mic policy. David, I know you tried to jump in earlier. Did you want to jump in now?
Yeah, just had a quick question for Abby. As a lawyer, do you feel when there's official pressures, there's a lot of, there can be a lot of inaccurate information coming out from official resources, official agencies, I should say, in the early stages, since there can be pressure to come up with stuff?
They usually cover them. There'll usually be some kind of caveat that it's in the early stage of the investigation. You'll most likely hear that. And I think you heard that in this press conference that they gave the other day. My point was, it's still going to be a lot more accurate than people going down the rabbit holes of TikTok to learn their news, and that it's still a trusted source to get updated information. But you will often, most likely, when you hear a press conference or a press release saying still under investigation, that the facts are still being formulated, and it's early stages. I mean, that's.
I definitely agree that it's way more accurate to get your information there than a TikTok or even Fox News, CNN, whatever you want to call it. But personally, I feel sometimes in certain circumstances, they shouldn't just say anything to the public because that could do more harm than good until they officially know.
Do you understand why they released what they just released? I mean, they make decisions to go to the public when they're trying to locate someone. That was very intentional, very specific. Why they showed those videos, and they showed the physical person and what information they had, and they offered $100,000 reward.
$100,000.
They're using the public, and they're very specific what they release to the public and what they don't release to the public. It's very calculated. If you worked in law enforcement, you're aware of that.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the videos of actually identifying them. Oh, yeah, those need to go out ASAP. In many ways, that those can be delayed 100%. But I'm talking about not necessarily just this case. I'm talking about just general, what if it's any of the active shooter situations. Sometimes they give out just facts that I think are information too early without, and that doesn't do the public any good about getting partial information about who his roommate may be, or whether this person is transgender or not transgender, or if his roommate's transgender. I don't understand really how that helps, but yes, identifying things on, hey, this is what we're looking for, this is the clothes, or anything that may identify the person before they catch them. Yes, get that information out to everyone ASAP, and don't delay. I 100% get on that, I understand. But some of the other information, I just think certain agencies just should keep their mouth closed because they can do more damage.
I think that's a judgment call by that particular law enforcement agency running
Abby,
the investigation.
Sorry to interrupt. John Kitover is broadcasting this live.
He is?
Let me go ahead and play some music. Let me cue up some music.
I'm sorry, guys, but it's just really annoying. And
if we play trademark music, he can't record. He has to stop. Good night. Take over.
Hold on, I'm gotta cue it up so somebody can talk while I
You want to cue it up?
any song, can we do requests here?
I'll say you can't do it.
You know what Rocky got it? You can go ahead and
Yeah, Rocky.
Come on, Rocky might put it into Rocky.
This is called meditating instead of running your lips all the time. Oh.
believe what's coming out of their mouth now, but we don't believe what's coming out of it when it releases the Epstein file.
So what I said earlier is I layered on that. First of all, you didn't just have the director of the FBI. You had the agent, the regional agent in charge of what would be northern Utah, and that branch. You usually have a U.S. attorney from that district. You usually will have in those press conferences. You had the governor of Utah speak. You probably have if you have the district attorney from that county, you may have the police chief from that that municipality that's affected. I mean, in most of these press conferences, it's not just one speaker. So and I gave the example that, like, in New York, when we had that shooting, what was that, about a month ago? Someone can remind me. And the dude was from Vegas, actually, that went to New York and
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Shot up the NFL, the building with the NFL. I mean, in those press conferences, if you remember, you had the chief of police of New York Police Department, you had federal, you have people from the Justice Department. So in these press conferences, it's usually an array. Now, whether you trust Patel or whether you trust Director Ray when he spoke before it was Patel,
right.
I mean, it's vetted with a lot of other people that are in that investigation. And, that's, if you don't like one, you have enough to choose from up there that, that are taking that investigation, that you should have a comfort level with it. And again, I'm also saying that versus finding some conspiracy theory on TikTok. I mean, just use your brain.
Oh no, I agree with taking the word. But
the governor of Utah seemed to me very balanced through this. And by the way, I was going to put something in the chat that Gary put in his chat. You're going to be shocked that I'm the one saying this, but I don't know if you heard Bernie Sanders.
Yes, I did. I listened to Bernie. Yeah.
What did he say?
I was amazing. I'll put it in the chat. It's actually something, Jay, you might even want to play in the room.
Nice.
And you think I'm the last person to tell you to do that, but Sanders came out with an excellent statement about political violence and how wrong it is. And when he gave it, he cited left and right violence. And it was actually a very balanced statement. So but I think that's what we have right now. We have to go on real facts as they come out. And again, it's not, usually these press conferences are an array of people that are working the investigation.
Also, just one last thing, just to piggyback off of David's point a little bit about the unnecessary information that comes out sometimes, I'm a little bit confused sometimes too as to how the automatic assumption is that you dated a trans person, therefore you're left wing, when one of the really big and still currently very big conservative influencers is Blair White, who is a trans woman. Right? So I don't think being transgender exclusively puts you on the left when we've had multiple transgender figures that are consistently out there on the right espouting right-wing claims too and supporting Trump, including Caitlyn Jenner, for example.
So,
I hear you, but I think generally, if you were to poll that, we see in polling that a conservative, and looking at the position that people that vote more conservatively are probably less in support. And you saw that in this last presidential election with that issue becoming front and center in that election. And people took very, very strong positions against it. As it came up with Waltz and the tampons in the bathroom, and then going forward with the whole gender issue. So I don't know. I'm not here to opine as to what the percentage is, but I'd put some money on the fact that it's a pretty high percentage.
Thank you.
Or not.
Thank you, Council. Hey, Jordan, hold on, everybody, hold on a second. We gotta get a new
Being
speaker.
recorded?
I have no idea, hon. Supposedly, yeah, because he played a buzzing sound when the music was being played. So we'll play music again in a minute, but I want to say hello to Lucky Sinclair. Lucky Sinclair, how you doing?
Hey, bro.
Do you want to chime in on will Charlie Kirk's death spark more violence in America?
Heck no, that's one of the most disrespectful things that could have happened to anybody in America. See, like, I'm not going to judge the brother, but there was people that was listening to him of a certain group, and they found somebody that they could respect. And when you take something away from somebody, even if it's sacred to the minutest point, you cause anger and strife. Those people who cause anger and strife, they don't care about peace. They enjoy contention. And I think that is devastating.
Thank you, Lucky. Jordan, guy Jordan did.
So, yeah, there's an enmeshment of several things that we have to look at from the perspective of a paradigm shift in one, how we get our news, how we editorialize it. I mean, if we didn't have new media, right, we would simply hear of this event. We would possibly make the assumption that it was, political warfare. And then we would have to wait to hear the facts, right, from the investigation. But so now what's going on is political violence is one consideration, and how public figures, public servants react to that. How folks on the right and the left respond to this event. Those things are enmeshed. And then there's a feedback loop on how the press and political figures then respond to how we perceive things and process it in social media. So the dynamic is rather complex and confusing. And people who don't pay attention to politics very much, which is most Americans, I mean, they may be polarized, but they're not as vested in it as, say, we are. They are really lost in this. It's tumultuous and it's problematic. And so I think we need to think of all the layers and the conflation of constructs. This is really complicated stuff and very nuanced. And then we aren't diving deep into some of the content that is out there that is disinformation and misinformation. I mean, the whole thing is just an absolute mess, but it's serving some stakeholders. And I think, I don't know how you could tease this out in a week, much less a year. So anyways, I just want to give that perspective because I think we forget somewhat how things used to be and how things used to be processed from the perspective of government relations and public relations.
Yeah, but Jordan, how things used to be processed, we didn't have $1,500 computers in our hands. Kids are being raised by these phones. It's the truth. How many kids do you know that don't have phones? You don't want your kid to be the outlier of the group, so you got to get them a phone. It's $1,500. Hold on. Let me finish, please. And they're being indoctrinated by these radical sites because we as parents are being derelict in our duties to see what our kids are doing. That's really the truth.
Right, but what I'm saying is that social media used to be an adjunct at most, at best. Now it's a central source of media as it's consumed, and so I think I don't know I don't know what more I would say to that other than we need to rethink all the layers that are at play here because it's rife with opportunity for people to distort the facts even when they don't want to. And I think I don't know who revisits it. I don't know what academic entities, media psychologists look at this stuff, I guess. But I think it's just so much more complicated and we're in the midst of it. And so it's hard for us to almost take a step back and be objective about it.
Thank you, Jordan. Before I go to Lord Mwenda, let me do a quick reset. Community conversations, collaborations. Will Charlie Kirk's death spark more violence? Let me say hello to a few people. Tisha, how you doing? Megan, how you doing? Mary, you have your hand raised. I try to bring you up numerous times. We have Liz, we have Miss Fifi, we have Moose in the house. Moosey, what's good, man? Why don't you come up? Guys, you have a pink ticket. Camille, Grace, cash in your tickets. Teddy, Don Julio, cash in your tickets, guys. It's free. Don't cost you anything. Lord Mwenda, how you doing, bro?
Listen, I just put in a link in the chat from his Instagram post of one of these similarly aged, individuals, like it says they're 19 years old, going around and vandalizing, memorials that, was set up for, Mr. Kirk, and this is, like for me, initially, my position was that the violence will not be as much because if you've noticed, hey, there's not looting riots up here like it was for George Floyd or whatever, any of these, every time that they're race baiting, Americans, relating to police brutality, et cetera, et cetera. Like none of that has happened, like to some extent there's been an element of decorum, right? But situations like this, I think that it's you could just go up to the 4-minute mark if you want to watch it and even like pin it to the extent that is one of the situations that would create, for more violence, because I don't think, Mr. Kirk, if violence, if we see a whole bunch of violence in the name of Charlie Kirk for the people that supported or somewhat agreed with his rhetoric, that will actually be going against his principles. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think for the people that actually, accepted it or adhered to some of, it's like for me, like what I agree with, like where I stand with Mr. Kirk was he was a family man and he was a constitutionalist. So if you were a family man and you were a constitutionalist, I don't think you're going to be, act outrightly violent, you know what I'm saying, unless provoked. And like that video, I think is somewhat of a provocation for, people who, I guess are not really tapped into their own being. Because man, look, they had a vigil in the UK, you know what I'm saying, in South Korea, you know what I'm saying. So to suggest that this man didn't have an impact one way or another, regardless of whether or not what he said pissed you off, is using violence is just gonna negate a whole bunch of his, turning point USA. You know what I'm saying? Even that notion, the turning point of USA, we're getting away from the violence and being violent, and let's have a discussion. He said it himself. But
thank you, Lord Stan. You want to jump in?
Yeah, I think first to suggest that because a crazy person or someone on the extreme outlier shot someone, that everybody that is left of center agrees with what happened. I find it horrible. I think most people on the right find it horrible. I think the shooters that might have had a right identity, that did bad actions, people on the right don't agree to. So to make claims that the left agrees to this and that they could, that right focused people wouldn't ever do, or that someone that's right of center wouldn't ever do what happened, is not the right way to put it. I think the better way to put it, if you draw that 99.9% of the U.S. or much even 99.998% of the U.S. would never do such a thing, and don't try to make it political.
Thank you, Stan. Thank you, Lord. Did you want to push back, Lord?
That the whole scenario is political. You know what I'm saying? Mr. Kurt's, whole, stint was, as much as he wasn't a college graduate, right? He would go to these locations to make the young individual, which he once was, aware of the political structure, trying to get the vote. He mobilized. I think, like, if we're going to be honest, he was, part and parcel, instrumental in Donald Trump's re-election, this past 2024. So, and look, like for me, I would even call myself, right, I am conservative. I'm conservative, but I wouldn't say right wing or left wing. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, when we're talking about right wing and left wing, I think that's what creates a divide. Because let's go back to the 1960s and look at how RFK, shifted and went to Trump's side. Because at one point, it was JFK that was saying, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country, right? But now what do Democrats do? The Democrats are the one pushing welfare. Your country will do this. Come. You know what I'm saying? So I think, go ahead. Correct me.
Okay. The fact that people care about the rest of humanity does not make it bad. I believe that most people that go to church in various religions, and it doesn't matter which type, believe that the other people, that they want other people to do better in their life. They don't want them to be in pain. They don't want them to agonize. They want the best of everyone. And to suggest, like you just did, that Democrats or any half the people in the U.S. don't agree or are bad people because they want other people not to be bad off.
I did not say they were bad
Just
people.
that's you're pushing an agenda that somehow you're believing that everybody left the center is a bad person and agrees with it. I'm against that. I think the Venn diagram would suggest the vast majority of the Americans find what happened detestable. They don't want us to be in this situation. Tone down the rhetoric, not tone it up.
They were bad people, but if you look at it, what was the majority group of people politically? How did they politically identify those who were celebrating Mr. Kirk's death?
I want to just point out to what AB or JB put above, up above, is that causing us to tone down.
No, that's gonna cause people to turn up. It's like playing Giacomo. He wants to stoke the fire because, like this guy. I was just watching a video. This guy was planning this for a year. He doesn't want the people to be silent. He wants to fucking peg you. Trump wants to get these people to start speaking and talking and letting out their fucking hate, and so he can put a tag right on you.
Right. So then, if that's the case, why should any leftist start bowing the knee and start playing both sides of it? The Republicans would never step down to acknowledge what's happening on their end.
That's fair game. But like to Dan's point, suggesting that just the people on the left are the bad guys. No, that's why I brought up the notion of JFK and how the left wing at some point, right? About 60 years ago, right? What their position was, right? JF asked not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country.
Yeah,
right?
but Lord, respectfully, we are in a totally different political climate than the 1960s. Even though there was racial divide and there was a civil rights. Hold on, let me finish, please. Thank you. The Americans, we don't think like our parents did or our grandparents did. We think different. America's a fast country. Everything's fast. Fast sex, fast money, fast food, fast internet. Everything has to be fast. We don't live like we did in the 60s, bro. But go ahead.
Fast everything, including fast women. But anyway, like my point, like I was saying, right? Like I was just pointing out, like especially today, like there was that direction of how the Democratic Party has shifted. The left has shifted to a more welfare state and somewhat socialist, communist type of situation. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's the behavior that we see being, exhibited by most left-leaning people. That's why I was asking the gentleman, like, if you're gonna talk about, bring up bad people or anything like that, what is the statistic or from your observation, the people that were celebrating Charlie Kirk's death, right? Were they left-wing or were they right-wing?
Yeah, but what you're saying is, and maybe you could fact check me. I'm just gonna the comparison you're making. The comparison I'm gonna make is, then all Republicans are MAGA, and we all know all Republicans are not MAGA. All Democrats didn't cheer this man dying.
Exactly. Like I said, for me, I'm
okay. If you go look statistically,
I understand
that less than 20 basis points of Democrats or people left of center had an opinion on this, and might be even less than 10 basis. It might be less than 1 basis point, and a basis point is 1/100th of a percent.
Was that like 0.0 something?
1/100th of a percent. So I said 10 to 20 basis points would be my bet. So 1/10 to 1/20th, or 1/10 of a percent.
So let's keep it simple for us that are not in math, right? Is it a 2-to-1 ratio, 1-to-1 ratio, 5-to-1 ratio, 10-to-1 ratio? You know, because that's where the question of the room comes in. Will his death spark more violence, right? And who will be the initiator or who will be poking the bear of violence here in the United States of America? Because so far it's been 3 days. That happened on the 10th. It's been 4 days. We're entering, September 15th. So 5 days, and we haven't seen any riots, and cities being somewhat destroyed, businesses being destroyed because, Mr. Kirk was assassinated, at the end of the day, albeit it was by a civilian, like the situations where the riots happen when it's black people involved, it's generally from, mostly like state sponsored, let's put it that way. But regardless, we're not seeing, the kinds of riots that happen when, somebody where it's politicized, where the death of an individual is politicized.
Wait, we haven't seen riots for the death of an individual is politicized?
In this particular situation, we're not seeing widespread violence and riots and destruction of property.
Well, there was a riot the other day. It was the white men fight back thing that happened.
There was a riot and property was damaged. There was damage to property and all that good stuff.
Not to the same extent as the previous riots have been, but it was still a mass gathering of them doing it. Yeah.
Was it a riot or a protest?
I'll double check the extent of the damages. I'm not sure if it extended down to riots. Let's see.
And I guess the same question I would ask you on these what you call protests that I call a riot. Where would you make the distinction? If there's vandalism, if there's property damage, if there's a blockage of traffic, if there's recklessness, misdemeanors, felonies, at what point do you turn it from protest to riot? Just curious. I'm not putting words in your mouth. I'm just curious where you in your mind draw that distinction.
Yeah, I would say a riot probably comes to the point once it's gotten once like you start seeing like shit get broken, et cetera, and all that type of stuff. I'd consider that a riot. Yeah.
So shit getting broken. So do you think
were the BLM riots right, or were the BLM protest riots? Yes, I do agree.
Yeah,
with that.
I mean, I
don't have a problem with this.
By my home, like 1 block from my apartment.
But yeah, like I don't have a problem. Like the difference
okay,
between the left and right is that I don't have a problem with this.
So shit getting broken. Shit getting broken is what you said.
Yeah.
So what happened on Columbia's campus when they took over the building and when they destroyed the property, or what happened?
Yeah, shit got broken.
Is that a riot?
That being a riot, well.
You just said shit getting broken. They busted up.
That one I probably couldn't say much to because I'm not as familiar with what happened at Columbia.
Okay, so if I tell you a whole building got busted up and they took a man, they kidnapped him.
Okay, then yeah, that's a riot.
Okay. What about like in front of Union Station in Washington where they
like if you're just gonna keep pointing out things that are obviously riots, I'm just gonna say yes.
No, no, she's not. She wants to say she said right away. XG, I'm doing the opposite. XG, I'm doing the exact opposite. I'm pointing out things that were written in the press as protests. That's why I'm asking you. So I just gave you an example of something that happened that was written up as a protest, not a riot. But I gave you exactly what, and I used your words to describe what you think a riot is. So a bunch of people beating up on cops or on park police, destroying federal monuments and defacing them and causing damage and attacking park police, and would that be a riot or a protest?
No, I'd say that's a riot.
Okay, but it was written up in mainstream media as a protest. So
yeah,
I'm not jumping on you. I'm just saying, like, it's interesting where people have the distinctions, and it comes into play in very significant ways, not just as the public is hearing it in the media, but in legal cases. And this happened right after what we're going to deem as riots in Minnesota. Okay, we can agree they were riots.
Yeah.
And buildings were burned. So someone threw a Molotov cocktail and burned up a building, a pawn shop, and killed a father. I forget how many kids the dad had, but killed a man. And when he went to trial, they were presenting it as protests and not riot. And the judge, and there's a very good article about this, I can send it to you. The judge took the approach that it was a protest, not a riot, and it was a much lesser sentence.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, well, it makes sense for that. It's not a good thing that it happened.
Well, it's not a good thing. It's hard for it, but it makes sense. That
But that's why the distinction can come into play in a legal sense as well as in a.
I wasn't let me make it clear. I wasn't denying the distinction at all, or that saying it didn't exist, or saying that violence or riots on my side of the aisle have never happened. No, that's a difference between me and Republicans. I would be willing to disavow and acknowledge the things that have happened on my side and be like, yeah, that shit was wrong. Shouldn't have happened. That probably shouldn't happen again. I disavow that.
I'm not
That's the
saying
difference between my side and the other.
No, I'm not saying
they'll just act like any violence that comes out of their side happened because of us.
Actually, I'm not saying one side or the other. I think it's really important, though, to define terms. You can apply it to all the fact patterns, but define the term first. So thank you for doing that.
But I think that the Brandenburg versus Ohio's case
The incitement?
was relevant to the college decisions that were made. I'm not an expert on it, but I do know that both the administrations in those colleges were being advised by lawyers that had looked at the Brandenburg versus Ohio and not wanting to get in trouble on that.
Just real quick.
I mean, there's prior. I mean, there's subsequent cases to Brandenburg, but that's a two-pronged test in Brandenburg. I don't know if you're really looking at Brandenburg with. I don't know if I would necessarily apply that fully, because there's other tests. I mean, you can also look at. You're looking at. Okay, we're going to go down a whole rabbit hole.
Hey, Abby, we don't need to talk about it.
Okay, so another time.
Wait, just real quick before the point gets lost, because Wallace Williams says in chat, total double standard. Did you not hear me disavow both sides, including my own?
I don't know if he's writing in the chat. Remember always, though, with any of these, that the policing powers of a government, of a state, is specifically of a state, the policing powers that are given within the 10th Amendment, give that governor of the state the power to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens. And when it is, something like a protest, or gathering, there's the right to not take away and put a prior restraint on them gathering, but to limit the time, place, and manner that they do it. And we have that ability under, the policing powers to protect the citizens, that people aren't gathering at 3 a.m. in a private neighborhood, banging drums, place and manner restrictions. Anyway, but Stan, we can do it another time. We can get into it.
Wait, what's Brandenburg?
So, leading case of Supreme Court case, it had to do with a guy. I'm going to do my best to remember this. He was a Ku Klux Klansman, and he was speaking to a group of Klansmen. And the question was what he said and whether what he was saying was incitement to then, was there an intent to incitement, and was there a likelihood that as a result of his words, they would be incited to then go, if he said, hey, there's a Jewish or a Black community down the street, go rip them apart, versus there's Blacks and Jews that live in your community and they're bad people, like difference. So they look at the likelihood of what he is saying could actually cause that crowd to do something, and was the speech intended to have the crowd do it. I'm doing my best. This is kind of a while ago, but that's basically.
kind of what Trump did on January 6th.
And they used, and Brandenburg, that was why the case kind of came back into the limelight again. And there's been subsequent cases since it, but it has to really have a likelihood, and you have to show the intent, and the words that are spoken have to be words that are inciting words. So you have to really go through the fact pattern of it. And I mean, if that was to be litigated, it didn't get litigated with Trump. It was back and forth as to what he said. And in Brandenburg, the outcome of the case was that the Klansmen did not incite them. Although if you look at the fact pattern, you would say, oh my God, like that's horrible what he said, but it didn't reach that level to take away his ability to speak, to take away that freedom to speak. It has to be, it has to fit this test. So I'm doing my best on this. Try to Google it.
I guess
if I'm saying it wrong.
How vague can you get before, or how vague or how little vague can you get before you start getting charged with something?
It's a really good question. You have to look at the fact patterns. I would say Google the Brandenburg and then probably Google subsequent cases.
Okay.
And there's been several in front of the Supreme Court. I mean, again, generally, the test to take away your right to speak has to be so compelling for it's the highest level of scrutiny. They have to narrowly define what they're protecting, and it can't be overbroad. It has to be very specific, and it has to be so important to the government to protect that they can take away your right to speak.
Well, on that topic, right? Since we're talking about speech right now, plus to hit it back a little
I
more
took
to
you
the
down
title.
that rabbit hole. I apologize.
No, you're good. Just to get a little bit more back to the title, on the same topic of speech, right? There's one point, and I'm as you've noticed, I'm a lot more level-headed and calmer than I usually am in this room, right? So I've been trying to keep it respectful. So understand that when I say stoke flames, I'm just trying to point out what I'm seeing. When I look at social media, right, and I see the conservatives with like that 20,000 person website of people's names and addresses or workplaces that have been making fun of Charlie Kirk or have been making light of the incident or celebrating it, it feels like those same right-wingers and some of the politicians, left-wing too, that have called for like gun control in I guess wake of this incident are completely and spouting things antithetical to what Charlie Kirk wanted. I'm pretty sure Charlie Kirk would have just owned, quote unquote, whatever people were making fun of his death had he still been here. I'm pretty sure he would have just acted like it was just memes on Twitter, not to take it seriously, and that this is just the left being gross again, quote unquote, right? But for the most part, it feels like the free speech warriors and the people that are chanting the fact that he died in the name of free speech are now the same people scrutinizing every piece of free speech that's on the internet because they don't agree with the fact that they're celebrating his death or they think it's vile. Now, granted, you can think it's vile, you can think it's disgusting, but in the same way that Charlie didn't deserve to get shot over what he said, right? I don't believe people deserve to be losing their jobs over their personal feelings towards what's going on. Because guess what? That would have been the same exact standard that Charlie Kirk would have wanted. And as much as I disagree with him on 99% of what he says, he probably would have agreed with me that people shouldn't be getting fired over that because conservatives were all on that plane when cancel culture happened in 2016 with the whole Gamergate stuff in 2014 prior to that. And conservatives were losing their jobs over simple jokes because liberals were triggered online, et cetera, et cetera. And conservatives are super anti people getting fired over making memes on the internet or jokes. But now it's completely 180 because it's one of theirs that got hit.
Well, before anybody continues, Abby, BB, I have to make a phone call, so either you're going to keep it open or you want to close it.
No, we'll keep it open for a little and then we'll close it.
Guys, if you give me about 10 minutes, I'll come back. Thank you.
Abby, I just sent you a message. It's about exactly. I was just writing a comment in a group because somebody was saying the exact same thing about free speech, and I found it, but I sent you. And it was talking about what you were saying exactly at the exact same time.
There's people with their hands raised. I can't figure out how to bring them on stage. I feel so bad. I'm clicking on it.
I'll bring them up. Don't worry.
Oh, but here is, wait, can we just have a moment, Augustus?
Hello?
It was a good day. Sorry, Augustus, go ahead.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just coming up to respond to the question at the top. It is going.
Okay, and then why do you believe that?
Well, because it's being promoted to the left, that the left can get away with these sorts of things, that they'll be heroic in these sorts of moments. Thanks for letting me share.
Heroic in what sense? Like, who's getting away with it? Like, I'm pretty sure he was caught. He's currently under investigation and being charged soon.
No, I think so. He's talking about the more violence. Will the Charlie Kirk that spark more violence? He's saying. Do you want to elaborate more, Augustus?
Not really.
All right.
Not really.
Thank you.
Thanks for letting me share.
Welcome to the stage, Holly. Welcome, J-Lo. Welcome, Jason. J-Lo, do you have something to say to that?
No.
All right. Jason?
I was saying earlier, I'm just trying to get a feel for the conversation again.
Awesome. Anybody else in the audience that didn't cash in your pig tickets, please cash it in. And if you're wondering how you can do it, it's free. Where it says communications collaborations, you just click on that. It'll say join house. And then Holly, would you like to talk on the title?
Yeah, I mean, sadly, I'm kind of with Augustus on this, and it's a scary state of affairs. On the flip side, even though I've been really down in the dumps about all of this for days, today I've really started to see and recognize that the antithesis to the evil, I've just been blown away with the international outpouring and support for Charlie and just what he stood for. And also, I have close to me, I won't say who, that has always been very anti-Christian, and she also happened to be a massive Charlie Kirk daily watcher and supporter, and she is making comments to me that I think she could be leaning and moving in the direction of becoming a believer because of, in large part, this whole thing. I mean, there's something happening. There's something very spiritual happening where we are grieving, sobbing, heartbroken over someone that we didn't know. There's something more than just Charlie happening here. And I think there's really something beautiful also happening from that.
Hey, Holly, can I chime in real quick?
Please.
Yeah, just to support kind of the beginning of what you were saying, and when you were agreeing with what I was saying, an example came to mind that on the app Blue Sky, there's currently a hit list of conservative influencers that's going viral and being circulated amongst radical left influencers and
you mean the same way the calls to civil war are happening from the right ones?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, next one.
Hold on. One mic, guys.
One mic, and it's on Augustus.
My apologies.
That's who's talking.
Yeah, I don't know what that guy's talking about. All I'm saying is it's an example of violence being ignited by the left. Is that on the left, there's a hit list with Benny Johnson, Ben Shapiro, Nick Fuentes, Walsh, and the list goes on to be something like a dozen people, maybe even more, calling for the assassinations of these individuals. And instead of it being censored or being whatever it is, where it's
de-escalate.
Yeah, de-escalated or anything like that, it's actually being promoted. It's actually being, promoted on that app, Blue Sky. So check into that, guys.
Yeah, let's check into 4chan.
Hold on, everyone.
One Mike Gillen, cash in your pink ticket, and I'm gonna put the Buttercup.
Wait, one sec before Buttercup. XG.
Go ahead.
When I was giving my example, I wanted to throw something else kind of like also at you
Yeah,
when
what's
we were
up?
defining what's a riot versus a protest. We get a bunch of crazy sports fans that like to climb on.
Oh, that's
poles
riots
and-
immediately. Yeah.
Is that a riot?
Yes,
Okay.
I would say Philly fans are the worst at that.
Thank you. Thank you.
I am. Well, Philly sucks. Respectfully. I'm
Do you hear this shit? Augustus, please.
I just man, listen. I'm need a breath to see what Buttercup has to say.
Oh, me too.
So, Buttercup, how you doing?
I think BB knows what I have to say.
No, I don't. That's why I
No.
said Mike's on you. Go ahead.
I wish you two would get a room already.
No. There's like an elderly woman that hangs out with BB's crowd that he's convinced. I saw a room.
We're
He's
talking.
convinced
Hold
her.
on. We're talking about the title of the room. Don't like.
Yeah, can you just Buttercup stay
I
on
know,
the
but why to this poor woman and telling her people to start rooms on her?
Buttercup,
What are you
we've
talking
got
about? You're doing a
kind of
real
a big
troll.
conversation going here on this, and we've got people from the left and the right like having a really good civil conversation. And it's honored when that happens on here. We can't. Please stay with it. Talk about the subject. It's cool. Take your position, but stay on topic.
Can you, so will Charlie Kirk's death spark more violence? Can you speak to the title?
Certainly more violence on this app from psychopaths
Come on,
who
Buttercup.
convince middle-aged women that people are starting rooms.
All right, listen. I don't want to on the
Let's go back
stage.
to what we were talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, guys, keep cultivating a good conversation. Keep it going.
Dr. Slippers, what's going on? Welcome. How are you?
Adams, you there, Adams?
Yeah, I'm very pissed off.
And me?
Very. No,
Are
not
you
okay,
you.
now I'm
answering the
good.
question, Adams? Do you think it would be more violence?
I was just threatened, and I literally just got off the phone, Abby, with the FBI. You know, with a very
talking here though on this.
with a very credible.
Adams, you're being recorded by John. Like, just don't talk about personal stuff in here.
Abby,
I'm
listen.
trying to help you.
I shan't.
It's just
Where have we got into this place in America
Go ahead.
to where me being indifferent to this issue renders a person threatening to shoot me and my family? Like that is
Is it me or is he animations?
at this point, Abby, people have lost their minds, and
Dr. Slippers, you're in
my
Matrix,
heart,
bro.
my
I'm gonna wait for one of y'all to say it was a leftist
Can you
or
hear me?
Brandon.
Yes, we can hear you.
Hold on. Give him.
my heart breaks for the Charlie Kirk family. I couldn't even imagine. I could not even imagine what these people had to go through. But the backlash and the shit that people are doing. Did this man die for nothing? Like, what are we doing? What are we doing as a pop? What are we doing? This is so incredibly heartbreaking. You know, both sides engaging in political propaganda that, in my opinion, is it's detrimental to the furtherance of us as an American population. And
Take a breath, Adams.
Jay, do you know how scared I was? Like, earlier today, like, somebody literally, like, threatened to unalive me and the rest of my family over not meeting a moment that people feel I should have met. I'm tired of this. I'm so incredibly tired of it. Like, I'm so tired of it. Like, this is so fucked up on so many different fronts. I mean, if if anybody saw Charlie Kirk's wife leaning over her husband's casket, I couldn't imagine how that woman feels in this moment, but I've been there in saying goodbye to a loved one and, having so many people having so many strong opinions to be said. We need to be kinder to each other. We do. We have to. We must. We need to be kinder to each other. And I'm sorry for getting emotional. Like, I couldn't even think about, like, my nieces and nephews and my dad. Just, like, somebody blowing my head off because of my political opinions on the internet. I don't have to do this. I don't have to be here. I don't have to, create this face on the internet. Like, I have a great job. I have a great family, a great career. And the fact that somebody would devalue my life to the point of trying to take me away from my family over some shit that I said on fucking social media. As a Republican, I cannot stand with this. I'm sorry.
Adams, why don't you take a few minutes and I'll definitely come back to you. Let me say hello to J-Lo and Dr. Kato. Hello, ladies.
I know, I think we're, okay, go ahead, Dr. Kato. I know J-Lo didn't want to chime in.
Hi. Yeah, I have to say I've seen on social media, I'm in a lot of like physician groups and stuff, and one is literally called like Empowering Women Physicians, and like hundreds of women are fighting with each other about this. Hearing Adams in tears, we've seen a lot of grief, a lot of anger. I never heard of Charlie Kirk before this happened. And certainly some of the things he said, I'm like, wow, that was a lot. And I can see how these politically violent emotions are coming up. But I think, Adams, you said something that's really important, and that is that devaluing life is the problem, and how when we're hurt, we might have more concern for other humans and how they've been hurting. And as hard as it is to go through that pain, and as wrong as it is to be threatened, I do think it makes us stronger collectively to go through this and to create community by coming to consensus that it is painful and that creating more division is not the solution. And I wish our president said more cohesive and unifying things to us as a country, but it doesn't mean we can't separately contribute within our communities to bring people together. And so I just want to say to everybody, those are my thoughts, and I actually haven't spoken publicly at all about this until today in this room. And I know many of you, and I'm praying for all of your families. I have to tell you, I haven't even talked to my son about it, and I was just thinking I'm probably not a good parent for talking about it with him, but I will.
Adams, Catherine, if you don't mind me asking,
Miss Catherine, how do you have a conversation?
Very quick, doctor, just very quick. I just so Catherine, you said you weren't familiar with Mr. Kirk for quite some time, and up until the situation where it was brought into your attention. So, what is it that so far? What aspects of this content did you consume, so to speak? Like, what were the things that you heard? Because you just said there were things that that you said that were, I guess, they were there. So, do you mind?
Sure. No, I don't mind at all. I, as a working woman who has left my children with other caregivers and, his stance on how women should, really get their MRS degree when they go to college and, be home with the children. And I do think that an intact family is the best for raising children. But I think how we define family should be more about love and partnership and community within the family more than just it has to be a man with a woman and the woman stays home and the man goes to work and some of those conventional conservative thoughts that where I live and where I work and when I'm on the front lines in the emergency department, that's not most of the time what I'm seeing. And I wouldn't want children to think that their families aren't as valued as what he says a woman should be as a mom or a family should be. So I do think
so that's
there is now
sound like it takes a village to raise a child. No, but what I was asking is like specifically like not what your interpretation of what he said. Like what were some of the things, because that's the other thing that I've had to contend with, especially on this Clubhouse and even in real life, when I'm seeing people like with actual interactions, right? Is that the lack of context that exists, and that's why I was asking you that question. I was like, what is it that you heard from his mouth, that was somewhat problematic, or something that was beneficial, because it's a two-way street, one way or another. So yeah, that's what my.
Yeah, thank you for the question. And like I said, I've only gotten to hear some of the context of who he is, and I do think a lot of times it's taken out of context. So I tried to see more of what he was saying, like when he was talking about DEI and vetting a pilot, based on the color of his skin and having doubts because of how they've shifted some criteria. I thought that was pretty polarizing statements, and I like that he's willing to debate and listen and goes into college and really, I think it's great to see young people care about family, caring about projects, caring about community. But I do think he was a polarizing figure, and I do think that has, unfortunately, we do have to look out for when we take public positions and they're not popular. People do get killed, and
Dr. Catherine, the same thing that you're saying is what I said. And it received this level of backlash.
But the violence comes from the left.
No, wait. I want Dr. Slippers, the fellow doctor, to what did you say, brother?
Oh, hold on a second. Before we get to that, let me say hello to Nutrition Lee. Nutrition Lee?
Hey,
Hi.
you can just call me Leah. I'm sorry, it's complicated, but hey, Catherine, it's been a while since we've spoken. I just want to kind of bolster what Catherine was saying. Here is a direct quote for you. Just get married. This is you were asking for Charlie Kirk's words. So just get married early, reject the siren song of modernity, and have lots of kids. Being a part, which I'm just, because you asked for his words, not an interpretation, right? Being a partner at a local law firm isn't actually that big of a deal. Having 3 kids is a really big deal and will make you happier, and it's okay to be a stay-at-home mom. In fact, we need a lot of stay-at-home moms, and a lot of women want to be stay-at-home moms, and we have miserable women because we've been shuffling them into corporate wasteland, when in reality, a lot of them don't find a lot of passion and fulfillment in that line of work, and who can blame them? And that's like a pretty mild quote for a lot of what he said in terms of women not working, but I don't think Catherine is interpreting what he said. I think it's that's his belief, and I don't think it's a good thing or a bad thing. I think it's just he said what he stood for, and I think that's commendable that he said what he stood for, but that is what he stood for.
But it's okay that he has the right to have the opinion to stand for that.
Of course.
I mean,
I think we live in a dangerous place and not a democracy if we're killing people for
listen to what we were talking about before. And again, I'm the last person you would think to tell you to go listen to Bernie Sanders. Someone put the link, if we can find it, I'll put it in the chat, about political violence and people having the right to say exactly what you just read. And hey, anecdotally, I've had the career with kids and a partner in a law firm, and some of his saying what he says, sometimes you have to take pause. You look back and you think about how you were as a parent and would things have been different if you took a different direction and you were a stay-at-home. It does give you pause. I'm not saying right or wrong, but it's not
building
so
is
wrong
hot
to make people think.
Abby,
okay.
really quick, could you give me any example of somebody on the right also denouncing both sides of violence like Bernie did?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't searched it, but I'll find it for you. That happened to be in Gary's chat. So we all just stand, Dr. Jordan, those of us in Gary's chat just saw it. But, if you'd like, I'll search and I'll find statements from maybe, someone in Congress, or, I will look for it and find something for you. But it's just a general statement about exactly what you just heard. Having an and it's okay. That's what our foundation is.
Well, let me ask you a question. Hold on. Let me ask you a question to Leah. Leah, do you find that the statement you just read, do you find that to be problematic, or you had no issue with it?
So I also work, right? I'm a dietitian. I have my own practice. I work, and I think, and I'm a mom, and I think you can work and be fulfilled and also be a fantastic parent, right? So it's not that I have an issue with it, I would say. I think there are also stay-at-home moms who are very fulfilled. It's that it's not my path, right? Are there things that Charlie Kirk said that I agree with? Yes. But that's not, I think, I came up because I wanted to, the question for Catherine was like, is that your interpretation or is that what he said? And that's what he said. But I think that's okay. Like, should he have been murdered for saying what he believed in? Like, no, that's to me that's insane in a healthy democracy.
Many of us were raised by stay-at-home moms. I'm older, so maybe my parents' generation was a lot more stay-at-home moms, but just curious. Everyone on the stage was raised by a mom.
My mom worked part-time, but I want to just add really quick, and this is with no intention to be prophetic, but Charlie's wife had a law degree, held a JD. She was working on her PhD in Christian leadership. I suspect that there is now discussion over who will further the movement, because if she takes over that position, it kind of challenges the construct of the trad wife notion that he perpetuated. So I don't know that that's necessarily problematic, but I just want to say one more thing, and that's that this guy, I think he was very articulate, but without question, he was a provocateur. His job was to be a bit of a provocateur. That's what pundits do. That's what other people on the periphery of political figureship do, right? And so that was his job. That doesn't mean that in any way, shape, or form he deserves what happened to him. But the question is, to free speech absolutist, he should be allowed to say whatever he wants, and people who respond to him should say whatever the heck they want. But the question is, some people are going to be angered by this, and some movements are going to be thwarted, and some are going to advance because of what he said. And I'm sure he was well aware of the...
Well, to speak on the risk, he met with a security company a couple of weeks before he was assassinated, and they told him he needs to put bullet-resistant glass around him and he shouldn't be doing these outdoors. He said he would take it into mind and he would get back to him. He never got back to him.
Excuse me, JB, can I get in the queue?
It's your time, Brian. How you doing?
Hey, good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me on stage and giving me the opportunity to speak. So I just wanted to salute to everybody. I see we got Dr. Catherine here on stage, and there's some prominent people in this room right now. I would like to salute to everybody that's commenting in the chat and engaging with their words as well. I would just my condolences to the Charlie Kirk and his family, the beautiful family that he left behind, those beautiful blonde, blue-eyed babies that he left behind, and his wife. I think it's horrible when I see people just trolling Charlie Kirk or laughing about what happened to him. I mean, what happened to him was horrible, and I'm still hurt. Even though I had Canelo and Crawford in the UFC this weekend, I was badly hurt because what I seen, and I can't believe they aired it on TV, and it's crazy because your kids seen this, bro. Your kids seen this. Everybody's kids seen it. My kids seen it. And this is what we're raising these kids on, bro. Good American fucking assassinations, bro. It's horrible. To have that man to be sitting in the audience. I mean, this is a guy that's not even violent. This was a good guy. And the more than a father, a husband, a religious man. And because you didn't like that he said he's pro-abortions, you people want to look. If he feels a certain way, you can feel. You don't gotta kill nobody, bro. Not like that, bro. And it's sad, bro. I'm really hurt. I can't stop thinking about him and his beautiful family. God bless everybody in this room, and God bless Charlie Kirk.
That was an amazing fight, wasn't it? I thought Crawford dominated.
I thought it was boring.
Yeah, I don't really want to talk about that because of the seriousness of the topic.
No, fuck Crawford, fuck boxing, bullshit.
I'm sorry, fuck you on that because I love it and it's our lifeblood here. So sorry, but
I thought it was a boring fight, to be honest with you. But Canelo didn't bring his A.
Canelo are broken down. Poor Canelo, man.
I was packed.
Yeah, it was
anyway,
good.
To answer the question, XG, I started to put some stuff in the chat. I just did my best with this. So Mike Johnson, and I'll try to get the video of it, recorded a video message, and I put his quote in the chat. Also, the governor of Utah, Spencer Cox, also made a very beautiful statement about having moral clarity and stopping the violence.
Now, just real quick, in those clips that you just mentioned, and I'll take a look at them for sure right now.
I have to,
those clips that you mentioned, they have, in the same way that Bernie denounced and listed specific examples from both sides that he denounced, they have as well.
I'm going to find, I have to sit and listen to videos of them. You're killing me.
Oh, no, I thought you had already. That's why, my bad.
No, but I'm just, my quick search, the National Governors Association came out with it, condemning it with a statement. And then there was a co-sponsored resolution in Congress by 52 House Republicans, also reaffirming the same statement. There was a joint statement from college Republicans and Democrats together. But I got to sit and listen to the videos.
Yeah, all good.
Okay.
The only reason I asked for that part specifically is because there's always this narrative of the rhetoric has to tone down. We have to tone down the rhetoric. And I always hear the word we, but it's only always pointed at the left that has to tone down their rhetoric. They're the problem, et cetera, et cetera. That's always happened. There's always a refusal of acknowledgement on the right of anything that's happened for them.
I didn't hear
Plus,
that.
anything new that happens becomes a left-wing attack regardless if it was a left-wing or
Wait a second. Hold on, let me just... Have you been listening to me all night, XG? Because I said Chuck needs to shut the fuck up, respectfully.
Yeah, but you're on the left.
I'm not on the left, I'm in the middle.
But you say it too. I'm not comfortable with
I'd be a bit more surprised about you.
I'm comfortable with
surprised.
he said. I am comfortable. I really like Mike Johnson, and he usually is very balanced in what he says. He's also very much a man of faith, and I respect that about him. So I will listen to the full video from Johnson, and I really am impressed with the governor of Utah. I didn't really know much about him before.
Well, Abby, it's just my opinion. Mike Johnson's has done a way better job than anybody thought he would when he first came in.
I know, and he's crossed the aisle quite a bit. I mean, he's pissed off some far-right Republicans as he's done it, but he's crossed the aisle and he's worked well with Hakeem. And you can't take that away. I mean, that's what they're supposed to do. They have to get legislation through. But I promise you, XG, I'm listening to this room too, but I will listen to the videos and try to find them for you.
The other thing that people haven't talked about is the fact that Mr. Kirk was poised to run for president one day. And so we need to kind of factor in provocateurism with his political ambitions and how perhaps he had to cater to a wider base or perhaps a more narrow demographic. So these are things that be careful when I say because of Congressman Kitover as well.
So I'm probably in the same chat that you were in. There was a piece this morning where someone suggested that he was at this point a political performer, which is kind of a new role that I hadn't heard of before. Someone in between a politician and someone that, and this is probably important, that is able to monetize their opinions on social media. And just so everybody understands that, not in Clubhouse, but on YouTube or TikTok or X, when you generate engagement, you get paid for it. At the low level, it's not very significant, but at some point it does. So this has led and continues to lead for people to try to say provocative things because they get paid and they can build a following in a certain niche and continue to go down that rabbit hole potentially. They get paid for it. So sometimes some of these opinions that you hear on different spaces because people are getting paid to do that. And it's unfortunate that the algorithms were changed from kind of a sex cells, which existed early on, till now, triggering the emotions of anger, fear, surprise, etc., are what works better for the larger engagement platforms.
Hey, Stan,
you stay on longer.
Stan, check this out, man. I'm the best moderator on Clubhouse. I've never made a fucking dime. Somebody show me how to do it.
Hey, yo, JB, you gotta sell your soul, JB, first.
No, you don't have to sell your soul. You just continue being.
Don't tell him what he has to do. You haven't made no best fucking on Clubhouse. Don't fucking tell him shit. You haven't made shit. Don't tell him nothing. You don't even got a green bean.
What? Yo, bro, what? I was just making a suggestion to the gentleman.
Don't tell him nothing. He knows more than you.
Okay. You know what I was going to say?
Can I go after the word JB?
Go ahead right now. Go ahead.
Thank you. So I wanted to say about the Charlie Kirk situation that essentially the floodgates have been opened.
Yeah, when you apologize to me for being just ridiculously obnoxious the other day, you can go next. But personally, I think you're an idiot.
I don't even know about that scenario. But for you, JB, I'm not gonna lie. You have capacity to moderate rooms. They're generally, it's generally a simple space. Then you can go haywire, and you can monetize it the way these other motherfuckers monetize it. it's called like quote unquote pop the op. You know what I'm saying? So you could label it your own way, where the people in the audience vote for, somebody to get moved off the stage, and the vote is if it gets to $10, if it gets to $20, if it gets to $50, this person will be removed off stage. Aside from the people who are just generally disrespectful. That's what people that have monetized Clubhouse. Because right now, like look at me, like me and you right now, we have this plus sign, right? That means
we had a
Clubhouse.
heat wave.
Who is Clubhouse?
We had a heat wave. We had a heat wave.
You know what I'm saying? So they're monetizing us. I think it's just up to us to
very good. See, I got some fresh mint. Just delish.
I have some that I've come across on this app to allow people, to express themselves however they want to express themselves until they become disrespectful. And then I think you can monetize that aspect. The disrespectful side, you can definitely monetize.